What if the man who has everything discovers that his own heart is the emptiest vault of all? In a world of glittering mansions and hidden secrets, billionaire Victor Hargrove's rage over missing scraps of food leads him down a path that shatters his empire of isolation. Stay tuned as tiny, innocent faces reveal a truth that could either redeem him or destroy everything he holds dear. In the sprawling opulence of Hargrove Manor, perched atop the misty hills of upscale Belvedere Heights, where the air smelled perpetually of polished marble and imported orchids, billionaire Victor Hargrove paced his cavernous study like a caged lion, his sharp eyes narrowing at the inventory report clutched in his manicured hands. Food items vanishing from the kitchen pantry at an alarming rate, not the caviar or the aged truffles he hoarded for his solitary dinners, but the basics. The loaves of bread, the cartons of milk, the jars of peanut butter that seemed to evaporate overnight, and he knew, with the certainty of a man who had built his fortune on suspicion and control, that it had to be her, Maria, the quiet maid who had been with him for just over a year, slipping in and out of rooms like a shadow, her eyes always downcast, her uniform impeccably pressed but her hands rough from years of labor that predated her employment in his gilded cage. Victor's mind raced back to the day he hired her, a rainy afternoon when his HR team presented her resume, immaculate references from lesser households, a single mother from a run-down part of the city. But what did that matter to him? He needed reliability, not backstory. And yet now, as he slammed the report onto his mahogany desk, scattering pens and papers, he felt a surge of betrayal that burned hotter than any business deal gone sour. For in his world, theft was not just a crime but a personal affront, a crack in the armor of his meticulously constructed life, where every employee was a cog in his machine, oiled by fear and loyalty bought with generous paychecks. "How dare she?" he muttered to himself, his voice echoing off the walls lined with first edition books he never read and abstract art he bought for tax write-offs, picturing her sneaking into the pantry under the cover of night, stuffing bags with his provisions. Provisions he barely touched, mind you, but they were his, damn it, and no one took what was his without consequence. Victor Hargrove was no stranger to loss. Orphaned young and clawing his way from foster homes to boardrooms, he had amassed a tech empire that revolutionized data security, ironically making him the guardian of secrets while harboring none of his own. Or so he thought, his days filled with mergers and acquisitions, his nights with empty echoes in a house too big for one man. No wife, no children, just the sterile hum of servers in his basement lab and the occasional call from sycophants seeking favors. But this petty theft, it gnawed at him, reminding him of the hungry nights in his youth when he'd scavenged dumpsters behind restaurants, vowing never to be vulnerable again, and now here was Maria, undoing that vow with her light-fingered ways. He summoned his security chief, a burly ex-Marine named Harlan, with a curt email. "Review kitchen cams, focus on the maid." And within hours, footage arrived on his encrypted drive, grainy but damning. There she was, Maria, at 2 a.m., her slight frame burdened with a backpack, carefully selecting items from the shelves, not greedily but methodically, as if following a list, her face illuminated by the fridge light, revealing not the smirk of a thief, but a weariness that Victor dismissed as an act. "Got her," he snarled, forwarding the clip to his lawyer with instructions to prepare termination papers and perhaps even press charges. After all, in his circles, examples had to be made, lest the help think they could nibble at the edges of his wealth. But as the sun rose on another flawless morning, Victor decided confrontation was in order. He wasn't one to hide behind emails. No, he'd face her down in the grand foyer, make her confess, watch the fear in her eyes as she realized the gravity of crossing Victor Hargrove. Descending the sweeping staircase, his Italian loafers clicking authoritatively on the imported tile, he found her dusting the crystal chandelier, her back to him, humming a soft melody that sounded foreign, perhaps Spanish, a tune that inexplicably tugged at some buried memory from his childhood foster days. "Maria," he barked, and she spun around, dropping her feather duster, her dark eyes wide with surprise but not guilt. Odd that. And she stammered, "Senor Hargrove, Buenos Dias, is something wrong?" He thrust the tablet with the footage at her, pausing it on her incriminating frame, and demanded, "Explain this. You've been stealing from me. Food of all things. Do you think I'm blind, that I wouldn't notice?" Her face paled, but she didn't deny it, instead lowering her head, murmuring, "I'm sorry, senor, but it's not what you think," which only fueled his anger. Excuses, always excuses from those who took advantage. "Not what I think. The cameras don't lie, Maria. Pack your things, you're fired. And consider yourself lucky if I don't call the police." Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't beg, didn't plead. Instead, she whispered, "Please let me show you why it's not for me. Come with me just once, and if you still want me gone, I'll go without a word." Intrigued despite himself, Victor prided himself on his curiosity, the trait that had spotted market gaps others missed. He hesitated, then nodded curtly, "Fine, but make it quick. I have meetings." She led him out the servants' entrance, into the crisp morning air, down a hidden path through the estate's manicured gardens to the edge of the property, where a dilapidated shed stood, half obscured by overgrown vines, a relic from the manor's previous owners that Victor had never bothered to demolish. As she unlocked the creaky door with a key from her pocket, a chorus of tiny voices erupted from within. "Mama! Mama!" And Victor froze, his world tilting as he stepped inside to see not stolen goods hoarded for resale, but a makeshift nursery, blankets on the floor, toys scavenged from who knows where, and four small children no older than 5, their faces smeared with remnants of breakfast, eyes bright with innocence as they rushed to Maria's legs, clinging to her like lifelines. "These are my bobbies," she said softly, kneeling to hug them, "orphan nieces and nephews from my sister's accident last year. I couldn't afford childcare on my salary, and the orphanage waitlist is endless. So I bring them here, hidden, feed them with what I take. I'll pay it back, every cent. But please, senor, they have nowhere else." Victor's throat tightened, the air in the shed thick with the scent of baby powder and desperation, and as one little girl with pigtails looked up at him with wide, trusting eyes, offering a crumbly cookie from her tiny hand, something inside him cracked, a floodgate of emotions he had long dammed up bursting forth, memories of his own abandoned childhood crashing over him like waves, and he staggered back, whispering, "What have I done?" But this was only the beginning, for as he stared at those tiny faces, a plan formed in his mind, one that would upend his life and perhaps redeem his soul, though the path ahead was fraught with revelations that would test everything he thought he knew about family, fortune, and forgiveness. The children chattered excitedly, unaware of the storm brewing in the billionaire's heart, as Maria watched him warily, her own story unfolding in layers he had never imagined. Born in a border town, crossing into the States as a teen, working odd jobs to support a family ravaged by poverty and loss, her sister dying in a hit-and-run that left these 4 angels in her care, no father in the picture, just Maria against the world. Scraping by on tips from cleaning gigs until landing this job at Hargrove Manor, where the pay was good but the isolation crushing, forcing her to improvise this hidden haven in the shed, timing her shifts around naps and feedings, always one slip away from discovery. Victor, for the first time in decades, felt small, his billions meaningless in the face of such raw humanity, and as he knelt to the little girl's level, accepting the cookie with trembling hands, he asked, "What's your name, Pequeña?" And she giggled, "Layla," a name that echoed like a bell in his empty heart. Hours blurred as he listened to Maria's tale, the children playing around them, their laughter piercing the gloom, and Victor's mind whirled with possibilities. Could he help? Should he? His empire was built on detachment, but here was connection staring him in the face, literally, with chubby cheeks and hopeful eyes. By midday, he had called off his meetings, instructing Harlan to stand down, and instead he rolled up his sleeves, helping Maria prepare lunch from the very pantry he'd accused her of raiding, the irony not lost on him as tiny hands helped stir soup, their joy infectious, melting the ice around his soul. But doubts crept in, was this pity or something deeper? And what of his reputation, the ruthless tycoon who crushed competitors without mercy? As the sun dipped lower, Victor promised Maria her job was safe, but more than that, he'd fund proper care, perhaps convert a wing of the manor into a family suite, ideas tumbling out faster than he could process. Yet a nagging voice whispered that this was too good to be true, that trust came with risks, and little did he know, one of the children harbored a secret that would link back to his own past, a twist of fate waiting to unravel. The day wore on with games and stories, Victor awkward at first but warming to the role, recalling forgotten skills from his foster days, like making shadow puppets on the wall, eliciting squeals of delight from the kids, and Maria's grateful smiles softened the edges of his world-weary face. Night fell, and as he returned to the manor proper, the empty halls felt colder, the silence deafening compared to the shed's vibrant chaos, and sleep eluded him, visions of tiny faces dancing in his dreams, urging him toward a decision that could change everything. Morning brought resolve. He met Maria in the kitchen, not as boss but as ally, outlining plans for legal aid to secure the children's custody, scholarships for their future, all while probing gently for more details. Why hide them? Fear of deportation, she confessed. Her papers in limbo, and Victor, with his connections, vowed to fix that too, calling in favors from high places, his network suddenly a tool for good rather than gain. But as weeks passed in this new rhythm, with the children gradually integrated into the manor's life, Victor uncovered discrepancies. A birth certificate linking one boy to a distant relative he recognized from his own genealogy research. A shocking coincidence that hinted at blood ties he never knew existed, propelling him into a genealogical deep dive that revealed his long-lost siblings' lineage intersecting with Maria's family, making these tiny faces not just strangers but kin. A revelation that hit like a thunderbolt, forcing him to confront the family he had abandoned in his climb to the top. Emotions swirled, joy, guilt, anger at fate, and as he held the boy close, tears streaming, he lost it completely, his composed facade crumbling in a cathartic release that marked the end of one life and the dawn of another. But the story was far from over, with challenges looming on the horizon that would test this fragile new bond. With the shed transformed into a vibrant playroom extension of Hargrove Manor, complete with colorful murals painted by local artists Victor commissioned on a whim and shelves stocked with educational toys that arrived by the truckload, the billionaire found himself immersed in a whirlwind of domesticity he never imagined, waking to the patter of small feet rather than stock alerts. His mornings now filled with pancake breakfasts where sticky fingers left prints on his custom suits. And Maria, no longer just the maid but a trusted confidant, orchestrating the chaos with a grace that made Victor marvel at her resilience, her story unfolding further as she shared tales of her village back home, the festivals and hardships that shaped her, drawing parallels to his own fragmented youth in ways that bonded them beyond employer-employee lines, perhaps hinting at a deeper affection he dared not name yet. But as the children, Leela, the giggly one with pigtails, Tomas, the curious explorer, Sophia, the quiet artist, and little Mateo, whose eyes mirrored Victor's own, thrived under this new roof, whispers of unease began to stir, first in the form of anonymous letters slipped under the manor's gate, cryptic warnings about unfinished business from Victor's past deals where he had outmaneuvered rivals with cutthroat tactics, leaving enemies in his wake who now sensed vulnerability in his softened stance. Harlan, ever vigilant, ramped up security, installing cameras and patrols, but Victor waved it off at first, too enchanted by the children's milestones. Leela's first lost tooth, celebrated with a lavish fairy party, Tomas's budding interest in gadgets, prompting Victor to set up a mini-lab where they tinkered together, sparks of innovation flying as the boy reminded him of his younger self. Maria watched this transformation with a mix of hope and caution, her own legal battles for permanent residency advancing thanks to Victor's lawyers. But she confided in him one evening over tea in the garden, the sun setting in hues of orange that matched the fire in her words, about her fears of losing the kids to bureaucratic red tape or worse, relatives from her sister's side who might resurface with claims. And Victor, his hand brushing hers in a moment of unintended intimacy, assured her, "They're ours now. I won't let anyone take them." Yet the threats escalated, a hacked email leaking details of the children's presence, tabloids sniffing around with headlines like "Billionaire's Secret Family," "Scandal or Salvation," forcing Victor into damage control, his PR team spinning tales of philanthropy while he delved deeper into the genealogy that linked Mateo to him. A half-nephew through a sibling he thought lost forever, confirmed by DNA tests that opened floodgates of regret for the family ties he severed in pursuit of success. As bonds deepened, Victor organized outings, private zoo visits where the kids fed giraffes, yacht trips on the bay with picnics of the very foods once stolen, laughter echoing over waves. And in these moments, he lost it again, not in anger but in overwhelming joy, tears mingling with sea spray as he realized this was the wealth he had truly craved. But shadows lengthened. One night, a break-in attempt at the manor, thwarted by alarms, left Victor paranoid, uncovering that a former business partner, ruined by his aggressive takeover years ago, was behind the harassment, seeking revenge by targeting the children, planting evidence to suggest Maria's immigration fraud, aiming to deport her and scatter the family. Rage boiled in Victor, the old tycoon resurfacing as he mobilized his resources, private investigators tracing leads, lawyers filing injunctions, even leveraging his tech empire's surveillance tools to monitor the antagonist, a cat-and-mouse game that kept him up nights, strategizing in his study while Maria soothed the kids' nightmares, her strength a beacon he clung to. Climax built as the rival, one Reginald Voss confronted Victor at a gala, sneering about your little charity cases and threatening exposure of Victor's own shady past dealings. But Victor, flanked by Maria in a stunning gown he insisted she wear, stood firm, whispering to her, "This ends tonight," before unleashing a counterstrike. Leaked documents proving Voss's embezzlement, turning the tables in a boardroom showdown that left Voss disgraced and arrested. In the aftermath, peace settled, but not without cost. Victor proposed to Maria under the garden stars, not for show but for love born of shared trials. And as she accepted, the children cheering, he completely lost it in sobs of happiness, his empire now a foundation for family rather than isolation. Years blurred in montages of growth, the kids excelling in schools Victor funded, Maria managing a foundation for orphan children, Victor stepping back from cutthroat business to mentor young entrepreneurs, his life a testament to redemption. The tiny faces that started it all now teenagers, their bond unbreakable, a story of accusation turned to adoration that echoed through the halls of Hargrove Manor forever. If this heartwarming tale of transformation and unexpected family touched your soul, hit that subscribe button now for more inspiring stories that blend drama, emotion, and life-changing twists. Don't miss out on the next one that could change how you see the world.